Hi, my name is Claudia Cullen, and this is my persuasive speech. My speech is about why we should be able to get birth control without prescription. The pill is used by 10.6 million people. It's not only used as birth control, but also to alleviate other hormonal issues such as extreme cramps, excessive acne, and excessive bleeding during periods. So then, why is this option so difficult for women to get? Okay, so I had some technical difficulties and my projector stopped working. So I'm going to continue the presentation without the presentation being projected, but I will email you the visual aid separately. Alright, so now for a brief history of the pill. The pill is made out of the hormones estrogen and progesterone. Some pills can have either or both. These hormones work to prevent ovulation. The pill was the first medical drug used to treat people who weren't actually sick. Margaret Sanger, who you may know as the founder of Planned Parenthood, worked with scientists to develop this pill. Unfortunately, she ran incredibly unethical trials using women of color and giving them these pills whether they wanted it or not. And this is the dark history that the pill has, unfortunately. And as you know, but that's mostly carried on Margaret Sanger and her kind of unethical and racist ideals. But the good that we did get out of that was that the pill was released in 1957 and FDA approved in 1960. The Supreme Court in Bade versus Eisenstadt, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, sorry about that, legalized birth control for all citizens in the United States. So, getting birth control is a real headache. It could be simple. You could just go to the pharmacy, pick up a few months' supply, maybe a year's supply, and there you go. Now you have birth control and you don't have to wait for it. Every month, you just have your pills ready to go. However, the process every 6 to 12 months, depending on what state you live in, is first you have to make a doctor's appointment and then figure out how to get there. Second, you have to take time off work or school in order to be able to make it to this appointment. Third, you have to actually go to the appointment and consider the time that's going to take out of your day, the cost of gas, and the cost of the actual appointment plus travel time. And lastly, you would have to now wait 20 to 30 minutes, go pick up the actual prescription at the pharmacy, and the cycle begins again, depending on what kind of, what doctor you have, every few months, every year, or it could be every month for some people. Now, what's the problem with this system? Well, that it mainly affects people with unreliable transportation and inflexible work schedules, people between jobs, people who are uninsured, and people who are unable to afford the premiums or are in an immediate need. In other words, women in poverty and vulnerable situations, as in those most vulnerable to the negative effects of unplanned pregnancies, are the people who are most affected. Not to mention people who are undocumented, people who are homeless, in cases of abuse or recently divorced, and still under their partner's previous insurance. Additionally, some forms of birth control are already available over the counter, such as Plan B pill, which is exactly the same pill, just in a stronger dosage, which doesn't make sense, since 2016, and also condoms, which are birth control for men. As of 2016, over-the-counter birth control is available in Washington, Oregon, California, Nevada, Colorado, New Mexico, Illinois, Tennessee, Virginia, Maryland, New York, Vermont, Maine, and Hawaii. So that's 14 states out of the 50 states in the United States. So that means 36 states still do not have access to this, which is a lot better than in 2016 when Oregon, California, and Nevada were the only ones that were, that allowed for birth control to be obtained without a prescription legally. So why is the pill still not available over the counter? Here are some reasons that critics give as to why this hasn't been allowed. Number one, it's dangerous, which is not true. It's as safe as ibuprofen with few complications. The American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, as well as the Public Health Policy Forum, support over-the-counter birth control, and 76% of doctors are in favor of this as well. Another thing that critics might say is that having over-the-counter birth control might make it less affordable for women, which is also not true. A lot of low-income women actually can't even afford insurance, so they're willing to pay as much as $20 per month based off of a 2013 study, and it would not affect women with insurance at all. Some other arguments that critics might give, the pill is abortifacient, which is also not true. The pill is a barrier method of birth control, which means it doesn't allow for fertilization, unlike IUDs. And if the egg is not fertilized, you can't abort it. Fewer unintended pregnancies means fewer abortions, too. Also, some critics might say that easy access means that people will become more promiscuous, which a lot of people take the pill for completely non-sexual reasons, as I mentioned earlier, mostly controlling hormonal issues. Number two, it's none of your business. Each person can make their own sexual decisions, and of course they can do this with or without birth control, but with birth control is the safest. And lastly, women will use other less effective options of birth control, such as the pull-out method, which we know is not, it's definitely affordable, but it's not reliable. In 1982, a study found that women who obtained the pill over the counter were more likely to continue using it than those who were not. So it was the study took place in a low-income border community between the United States and Mexico, and women who obtained the pill in Texas were 60% more likely to stop using it than women who got it over the counter in Mexico. And the fact is that 2 out of 3 women want over-the-counter birth control. This is based off of a 2013 study with 2,000 women, and when they were asked about their interest in oral contraceptives. And 1 in 3 women who aren't taking the pill said they would be if it was available over the counter. So, what can we do? We need to demand affordable birth control over the counter. Online petitions are a great tool to demonstrate the need, but we also need to vote. Lots of states are already working on bills to make over-the-counter birth control legal. So if you see any of these bills in your state, vote yes. We've already made huge progress from 3 states to 14 in the last year, but we need to keep going until every woman in America has access to affordable birth control. All right, well, thank you for listening. That's my presentation.